formally reintroduce everybody to our webinar. Today, I'm your host, Charlie Mitchell, and I'll be running you through the topic of what does a super agent look like in the call center. We have two great speakers who you might have heard a little snippet of there, but I'll reintroduce those to you in a sec. And let's do that right now, why don't we? Our first speaker today is Gary Gormley from Fab Solutions. How are you doing today, Gary?
I'm very well, thank you, Charlie. Lovely to be here, as I said earlier.
Excellent stuff. And I don't know if you want to give the people who've just joined us a little intro into what you do at Fab Solutions.
Yeah, so I founded Fab Solutions not so long ago, and I kind of help contact centers to become more efficient and more effective, supporting them with their overall ambition to improve customer experience. So looking at the kind of whole process improvement, contact center training and leadership development end, so that customers have a great experience within the contact center environment.
Excellent. Yeah, and you bring a couple of those themes out in your presentations. And as I said earlier that I've seen your slides, and it's going to be a very great presentation. And in fact, both presentations.
Stop building it up, Charlie.
I know. I'm going to do it, Gary. I'm going to do it. Going to do it for both of you as well. Because I've also seen Jason's slide, and it looks very, very good indeed. As introducing our second speaker now, Jason Griffin from Five9. I don't know, Jason, if you maybe want to introduce a bit about yourself and kind of your role within Five9.
Sure. So kind of like Gary, but we kind of take a different take on it. So I'm a solution consultant who is hired by Five9, but basically I kind of do the same thing and trying to improve the way that contact centers kind of use their technology to improve the current processes within that contact center. So I have done a lot of the roles before I came to Five9, and although it is trying to show what Five9 can do, but it's also that kind of holistic view of maybe if you try X and try Y to help improve that to go forward, to ensure that you get the right solution fit, no matter who it is, whether it's Five9 or not. That's what my aim always is, seeing some of the things customer side from being there myself. That's the kind of experience I bring. Now I do go through demonstrations and technical resources and architecture for the Five9 side, but it's more about trying to find the right way to improve whatever anyone is looking for their individual requirements, because everyone has their own individual requirements. Not two contact centers or two businesses are the same, that's for sure.
Excellent. I think, yeah, that's a great point, and I'm sure you will make many more in your presentation to big up both of your presentations even more. But before we get into those presentations, just a little bit of housekeeping for everybody watching. We like to make these webinars as interactive as possible, so it'd be really great if you could open up a new tab and just type in cch.chat, or if you fancy more of a challenge and you want to type in www.callcenterhelper.com/chat, and that will take you to our chat room, and that's where you can kind of send in your tips and questions to our panelists, and you can get maybe some of those answered today. And we also will have a prize for the winning tip, which I'll get back to in a sec. But added bonuses of being in the chat room are the fact that you can download the speaker slides, and you can also join our quiz, which we'll come to after Gary's presentation. What I like to do when I'm watching these webinars is to put the webinar on one side of my screen and the chat room on the other, so I can kind of take part in both. Yeah, I find that the best way to do things, but obviously do as you please. And of course, if you want to watch the replay and download the slides later, you can do. They'll be available later this afternoon at www.callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars. And as I said earlier, when I discussed that you can put your tips and questions into the chat room, the best tip will win a bottle of champagne or a box of chocolates, or maybe even an Amazon gift voucher. So yeah, just put a hashtag tip for a tip, a hashtag question for a question, and enter those into the chat room. Excellent. So I think that brings us on to our first presentation. I will pass the metaphorical baton over to you, Gary, and let you.
Wonderful. This is where technology decides to play or not. So you should see. There we go. Technology is playing. So wonderful to be here. Thank you very much, Charlie. I'll just set my metaphorical timer to go so I don't overrun and steal Jason's time. But yeah, this is the first presentation I've done for Call Center Helper. So I'm really pleased to have been invited and really excited to be talking about what does a super agent look like. And I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an intro into me. It's kind of some of the things that I've already mentioned. Is I own the company Fab Solutions, which is a contact center based consultancy, and I help contact centers become more efficient and effective in delivering a great customer experience. And that's what this is all about. It's delivering great customer experiences. But in addition to that, it's delivering great employee experiences. And I think sometimes that's where we forget that there is an employee as well as a customer in this whole kind of environment that we work in. So it's great to be talking about how we can create super agents. And I'll talk a little bit more about what a super agent is in my personal view. Feel free to comment in the chat if you disagree. But I thought what would be interesting first is to talk about what a super agent is not. And I think we have this kind of preconceived idea of what makes this great agent super. But I think when we look at kind of some of the things that constitute that, it's not necessarily all those things that kind of do make a super agent. So what I would say is a super agent isn't that person that works all hours. It's not that person who comes in at 9 and finishes at 8 and does lots of extra hours. It's not that person who can handle lots of pressure and doesn't complain because it makes my life easier because you don't come to me and talk to me about all the complaints that you've got and you own your own problems. That's not necessarily what we're talking about here. It's not about someone who's super career focused and super ambitious and always willing to take on lots more of responsibility. Whilst that is amazing, and whilst I'd love to have a team of people that want to take on lots more responsibilities and eager to kind of advance, it's not necessarily what makes a super agent. And it's not a super agent that's engaged and willing to volunteer for everything. It's more about how smart can your agent work rather than how hard can your agent work. So I wanted to take a look at why we need super agents. Why do we need in this kind of current environment people that are firing on all cylinders and able to kind of work in an environment that's quite high pressure? And if we take a look back down memory lane, maybe a few years ago when we didn't have cloud and we didn't have all this great technology, we had a voice, we had an agent, and they did things that were nice and simple. It was limited channels. It was high volume because we didn't have all these other different channels that could come in. And it was fairly transactional because of the nature of the inquiries that we were getting through. Everything came through. It wasn't necessarily self-serve in there, or the IVR wasn't as sophisticated as it could be. But now when we look at agents and we look at who they are, I say at the moment, we already have super agents, because look at how many different channels these people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. We've got social, we've got SMS, we've got voice, we've got web chat, we've got email, and there's loads of other technologies that they're having to contend with at the moment. And what that does is it creates much more complicated inquiries. It gives much more of a requirement to be omni-channel focused. We have lots more blended skill sets that we have to kind of handle on a day-to-day basis. The volume is still high because the demand hasn't gone away. We might have developed more self-serve technologies that help remove some of that demand, but there is still a demand. And that's not necessarily as transactional as it was. It's much more of an in-depth about a relationship. And I think I liken this to say, actually, when I moved to COVID times and I was spending so much time on my laptop, on Zoom, on all these digital platforms, it just made me realize and be more grateful about all the stuff that our agents have to do that requires them to do all this and kind of do everything at such a high degree. And what we'll need to do in order to move forward with is think about some of the changes now, thinking about all those technologies and all those kind of different channels. What is the change that we need to make? So we've got about 4 areas that we need to consider in terms of developing those super agents, because now that we have all this different variety in the role, we need to think about the competencies when we're recruiting people within the contact center and kind of what relevant competencies we're now looking for. And for those people that we've got in the contact center, what skills have they got that we need to develop? And how can we adapt some of our training facilities to now adapt to some of these different environments? What technology we've got available to make training much more interactive? We're doing a lot more via Zoom. We're doing a lot more remotely. So how do we need to adapt that kind of training? I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. But I think there's also an obligation now for our supervisors and our leaders to think about how they can interact differently with agents, and kind of what we've got to help support people from a remote working perspective as well. And that's kind of changing the environment as well. And if we think about the agent's job and the current landscape of the agent, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that they are super agents, because the landscape and the job of the agent at the moment is much, much harder than it used to be. And we ask them to do some very demanding things. We ask them to look for and maintain good quality assurance. We ask them to manage scripts and multiple screens. We ask them to work through a knowledge management system and update different systems and update kind of their own learning. And we ask them to look at the overall customer experience and how that can kind of work within the contact center, specific to things like NPS. We ask them to manage different systems and do that all whilst maintaining a smile and keeping the customer satisfaction high. So the contact center job is hard. It's much, much hard. And it leads onto a numerous number of things. And this is why I think it's important for us to, when we talk about the next kind of few things about how we create and foster that super agent environment, to have some of these things in the back of our mind, because all that stuff that we're asking them to do on the left there breeds a high propensity to make mistakes. And with that, it lends itself to actually more customer complaints coming through and more of a negative customer experience. And then there's the fear of getting things wrong. There's the fear of that kind of whole process going wrong. And actually we're starting to then have an impact on the success that we've got, because we're not necessarily delivering to the standard that we'd like to. And of course, as a consequence of that, some of the things that happen is it starts to kind of think, is it a risk to my job? Am I going to be put on some sort of performance plan? So the job of the agent is really hard. So with that in mind, and with some of the stuff that we've already talked about there in terms of how it affects motivation and how it affects staff, I've got a poll question. So I'm going to ask Charlie, I'm going to hand back to Charlie and let you resurrect the poll. So do I need to stop sharing here, Charlie?
No, I'll just launch it now for everybody, so everybody will be able to share, see it on their screen now. Yeah, so the question, as Gary was saying there, is what is the average cost to replace a disengaged employee in the contact center? We've actually got 4 options on our poll here, and the options are £1,200 per employee, £5,200 per employee, £11,200 per employee, or £21,200 per employee. Bit of a tongue twister for me there, but it's but we got through it. I see lots of answers are coming in now, so I'll just give everyone a couple more moments to answer that one. It's quite a tough one there actually, but we'll see. Excellent. Yes, so quickly about 1 more moment and I'll end polling and share the results with everyone. So yeah, as we can see, most people have said £5,200 per employee. There were 36%. Yeah, and then just behind that is £11,200 per employee, 34%. But yeah, as we can see, there's a big range there. So I'll stop sharing the results and hand back to you, Gary.
Brilliant. So if we were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the audience vote would not have served you well, because it's actually £11,200 is the average cost to replace a disengaged employee. And if you imagine that from a cost perspective and think about in your contact center, the own cost of attrition, that's quite a significant and quite a scary number to be working to. So it leads on to the question, I suppose, is to why do we need contact center? Why do we need super agent? And what makes an agent super? And like I said earlier, I think we already have super agents within our teams. Our job is to nurture some of those. And I talk about 5 things, or the 5 superpowers that we have that enables us to build a super agent. And unfortunately, we can't go to our nearest recruiter and say, can you recruit me 100 super agents, please? So we have to think about what the enablers are to help us create super agents. And I talk about it in the context of these 5 terms around people capability, leadership development, process improvement, customer experience, and then how we utilize technology to support that. And I'm sure Jason will talk a lot more about how we can use that in his slides. But if I look at each of these superpowers, if you like, and think about people capability, this boils down to how we recruit people and how we train and ensure they are competent to do their roles. The landscape of the contact center agent has changed. So we need to make sure that our training competency regimes evolve sufficiently enough to make sure that we've got that ability to kind of train people in the right way, train them on the right systems, look and understand what the key competencies are that we're looking for from our contact center agents these days, and understand how we can translate that into good training context. So looking at the different training methodologies that are out there, looking at how we can fuse new technology into training. So thinking about more of the virtual systems that we've got and how we might need to train people all across the country, all across the world, to make sure that they've got the right skills, competencies and knowledge to be able to do their job. And whilst training is very important, we can't forget the fundamentals. And that is being clear on the expectations of what somebody's role is. Understand exactly what they should be doing within their job and what great looks like. I think sometimes we forget to kind of really map out what good looks like and what good practice looks like. And at the same time, if things aren't going to plan, we need to make sure that we're giving the right level of feedback, and we're giving that in a timely manner, and we're making sure that the feedback that we give is being delivered, worked on and improved and then followed up on. And that's where a regular review of performance comes in. And understanding actually in that monthly one-to-one, what's happening, what do they want to develop on, and what can they learn from some of the previous experiences that they've had in that month. And it's not just about doing a mid-year review or an end-of-year review. Performance and feedback should be regular. And that's where, when we look at leadership development, it's really, really important. You can't have super agents if we don't have super leaders. And I talk about skills and effort equals achievement. And that's taken directly from a psychologist, Angela Duckworth, who talked about how you can develop resilience and a growth mindset, and how you can develop grit within your own performance. And that is essentially learning from failure. So when I talk about employees and contact center agents, they thrive when they feel appreciated. How many times have you come into the office and not necessarily felt the love and affection from your boss, and you felt underwhelmed? So if we really appreciate our teams and we really work on their personal skills, we can help them thrive. Because if we can get them to thrive, the discretionary effort that they give goes up. So the amount that they're willing to give over and above the standard goes up. And as a direct result of that, we see productivity go up. So all of those things are linked. You can't have super agents without super leaders, or leaders who are focused on developing others. So with that in mind, I think we need to think about how we set people up for success. So I've seen time and time again in the contact center is we've got so many different manual workarounds. We've got so many things that we've been doing for so long that they become permanent working instructions. So making sure that we've got the right processes in place and the right infrastructure for our teams will enable them to deliver super outcomes and be super focused on the customer. So I talk about poor process times low effort equals poor performance. You can't have a high performing team if we've got poor processes. And even a high effort individual, so somebody who goes above and beyond, if we give them poor processes, you are going to get substandard performance, because we've not set up the infrastructure, we've not set up the working environment in the right way and given them fit for performance processes. So we can do that by simplifying things. We can look at it from a really simple perspective and say, how do we make this even better? We can look at the view from the seat of our teams. We can listen to the voice of our teams and ask for improvement. Great ideas come from individuals that do the job day in and day out. They're the people that are experiencing the complaints from customers. They're the people that are experiencing the challenges from customers. And I talk about this in terms of what we call elephants, dead fish and vomit. And this is a great cultural piece from Airbnb. And they talk about what's the elephant in the room. What's the things that are really on your mind? And then they talk about dead fish. And dead fish symbolizes what are the things that we thought we tackled, but are still stinking the place out. And then vomit is that opportunity to kind of have that verbal vomit to say, actually, these are the things that are really causing me a problem. Because actually, those are the things that detract from the day-to-day improvements and the day-to-day effort that you get from your teams if you do it well. So then we talk about customer experience. And customer experience for me is understanding the overall performance of your agents and your customers. So we look at that in terms of happy customers equals happy and super productive agents. If you've got lots of customers that are complaining and unhappy, you are going to have unhappy agents. So in order to develop that super agent capability and that super agent mindset, we need to make sure that we're thinking about our customer experience and how we can create positive key moments of success for our customers. So if we look at that, when's the last time you walked your customer journey? When's the last time you thought from your customer's perspective, how are things in the contact center at the moment? Because actually there are key moments of truth that can make or break your customer experience. And those are the things that cause your agents aggravation, irritation, and dissatisfaction. Whereas if we can tackle some of those things, we naturally get super productive agents. And that then limits the number of complaints that we get. And it enables us to close the loop with that. And then again, if we can, complaining customers equals complaining agents, because things aren't right. It's the agent that gets it in the neck when the customer complains. So we need to make sure that we're thinking about that from the agent's perspective. And don't forget that when we've done an amazing job at handling those customer complaints, we give great feedback back to the agents and make sure that they're happy, and we give them that level of praise. So with that in mind, I've got a final poll question. So I'll hand over to Charlie again.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll quickly just take over from you there, Gary, and launch this poll for everybody. And the question, as you can see on the screen there, is what percentage of customers would be willing to pay more for an excellent customer experience? I think it's going to be very interesting to see which answers come up here. Sorry, I realize I'm rushing through these polls, everybody, but I'll give you a few. Make sure I give you a few more moments this time. Excellent. I can see a couple of people typing into the chat room. If you could just click on the answer on the actual poll, that would be really great. Excellent. So I'll quickly end the polling process and share the results with everyone. And yeah, so most people, well, 48% are saying 25.9%. A lot of people also saying 20.9%. And as we can see, as the numbers get smaller, so does the response rate. And I'll pass back over to you, Gary.
And Ask the Audience would have been right in this scenario. So 25.9 was the correct answer. So I think and it's really interesting, that is how much would you be willing to pay more for a great customer experience? And I think when I look at that in terms of how we can create that customer experience, I'm going to quickly talk about how we can utilize technology and leverage technology to create blended working, gamification, and integrated technology within the contact center. And what do I mean by that? So it's how you can optimize productivity through multi-skilled agents. So actually you're creating a much broader skill set of people that feel more empowered and feel like they're doing a great job and feel like they've got more variation in the role. And that in itself reduces attrition. We can then implement gamification, which is increasing the overall level of productivity by using things like polls, leagues, competition, which in itself creates better engagement and more fun at work. And then lastly, we've got how we can streamline that process using systems such as cloud-based technology, APIs from multiple systems to kind of streamline that. And that in effect has an impact on average handling time for customers and overall user experience. So technology integration is an important part of improving that employee experience and ultimately creating a much more empowered super agent. So if I was just to summarize some of the things that we've gone today, your agents are already superheroes. It's up to us to recognize that and really excel and make that more possible. It's our responsibility as leaders to unlock that potential. The role of the agents fundamentally changed, and we need to look at it from their perspective when we're inviting change. Challenge yourself on your process and walk your customer journey, and use data from your customer experience to change your process and consider the employee experience. And lastly, obviously, utilize that technology to help simplify the employee experience. That's how you get a super agent, folks. Thank you very much. That's me, Gary Gormley.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Gary. I'll just take back over the screen from you very quickly.
Sharing.
Excellent, and everybody can see my screen. I think that, yeah, that was really great. I picked up loads of bullet points myself from that presentation. Some of the kind of key things I noted there was to kind of be clear on the expectations that you set for your teams. I know it's quite common for a lot of agents not to be kind of very clear even on what's on the quality scorecard. So familiarizing themselves with kind of their those behaviors which are proven to kind of drive customer satisfaction was a great point. And you can't have a super agents if you don't have super leaders. I thought was also a very interesting point. And to view processes from your team's perspective, as well, as was one of the key takeaways from that. And yeah, lots more great stuff there. So thanks for that, Gary. Just quickly for everybody, in 1 or 2 words, if you yourself could in the chat room put what did you like best about Gary's presentation, that'd be excellent. Yeah, so while you're also doing that, to get to the chat room, you can go to cch.chat, as I said earlier, and also being in the chat room will allow you to take part in our quiz, which I will come to in a minute, but I'll just give everybody a quick little moment to go to the chat room very quickly before I launch the quiz. But yeah, I can see some very nice feedback coming through in the chat room as well now, Gary, which is great to see. Excellent. Excellent. I can see quite a few people in our chat in the chat room ready for the quiz now. I'll give you a couple more moments though, because I'm very quick on the trigger on these things today, especially with the poll. So yeah, a couple more moments. Excellent. And I will launch everybody. I'll launch into the first question. And as a reminder for everybody that is taking part in this quiz, that there will be a bottle of champagne or a box of chocolate as a reward for the winner. So the first question for everybody is true or false? 40% of agents agree that their company doesn't always provide the technology that they need. Also, to vote on this quiz, once you're in the chat room, you'll see A, B, and C and D on the bottom left of your screen, and that will enable you to take part and vote. Excellent stuff. Great. I'm going to quickly move on now so everybody get the answers in. Excellent. Also, in fact, most people said it's true, but it was in fact false. It's a bit of a trick question, really, because it's in fact 60% of contact center agents agree that their company doesn't always provide the technology that they need to address the challenges they face when helping customers. So it's 60 instead of 40. So Karen is currently in the lead of today's quiz. As we move on to our next question, and this one is make sure you're keeping an eye on Gary's slides, because according to Gary's slides, happy customers equal, is it A, happy and super ambitious agents, happy and super focused agents, C, happy and super motivated agents, or D, super happy and super productive agents? Excellent. People desperately searching back through their memory now, I imagine. Excellent. I'll let the last couple of answers come through before I reveal the answer. Excellent. So yes, most people did in fact get that one right. It's good to see that people were listening. It was in fact happy and super productive agents, as engaged super agents are not only happy but are productive in helping make the customer experience a success. Excellent. So Haj is now leading as we go into the next question, and that is, what does the R stand for in the Grow coaching model? Is it A, reality, B, recognize, C, responsibility, or D, revise? I think this one is slightly biased maybe to those contact centers that do use the Grow coaching model in their contact center. But yeah, it would be good to see a number of you getting this one right.
Be interested to see the split.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's quite harsh because a lot of the answers are quite similar there. It's in fact a reality. Yes, suspecting. So yes, the Grow model. You can use the Grow coaching model to ask open questions that allow advisors to take control of their own self-development. So yeah, you can see the kind of what the acronym stands for there. Excellent. And Alex is now on top as we go into the final question. So it's again referencing Gary's slides. So in his slides, which of the following did Gary not introduce as a superpower for building super agents? Is it A, people, B, process, C, practice, or D, technology? Those answers come in there. This is all hinges on this question, folks. Excellent. I see somebody in the chat room saying they've cheated. And the correct answer there was C, which most people in fact wrote. So yes, Gary's 5 powers for building super agents included people, process, leadership, technology, and customer experience. So it was good to see that the vast majority were paying close attention there. Excellent. And the winner of today's prize is Alex, and congratulations. You will soon be getting your bottle of champagne or box of chocolates. Yeah, so we'll be in touch after the webinar with details of that. Excellent. I'm just going to quickly switch back over now to the presentation. And now's the time where we come to your top tips and questions, and I'll be putting them to our panel. So the first tip today comes in from Alex, the winner of our quiz. And she says, agents need to develop an autonomous approach to ownership enabled by the business. And I think that actually, Gary, that links very well to what you were saying earlier. Kiana says, active listening and problem solving abilities are key to engaging customers as well as being empathetic. I think that's a very key point. I guess framing empathy is very much based around active listening. And another tip now coming in from Alex again is to engage your workforce to establish the best methods for developing and designing super agents. They'll feel empowered and will have the sense of ownership. It will also make it feel more achievable, knowing that the strategy came from within. Do you think this is a very good idea, Gary?
Yeah, definitely, and it kind of links back to some of the points I made in the presentation around involving the agents in coming up with a solution. Feel like they own it more, they get more engaged, feel more accountable, and they're more likely to deliver on it and succeed.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Great point. And the next point comes in from Parham, who says, use technology to handle simple transactional queries. Empower staff to make decisions, give them a 360-degree view of the customer to make informed decisions, and reward them appropriately for handling more complex queries. I'm guessing this is something that you'd agree with there, Jason.
100%, yes. I did read that in the chat room, and I was tempted to reply back saying, have you seen my slides before I talk about them? But yes, I 100% agree with that. And what Parham is mentioning there, technology is so important here. And you've seen it in Gary's slides. That was the kind of wraparound for the 5 powers he mentioned. And that's because it is that important in making it available to the agents for that 360-degree view, for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think there's just a couple more tips now before we get to your presentation, Jason. And this one comes in from James, who says empathy is the most important quality. I think that's a contentious point, but absolutely, it's definitely a key skill, as you say. So Vicky also sent in another tips, and this very interesting. It's we started a program called Hot Topics, where our agents would let me know what topics of training they want/need. From hearing what our customers are asking them about that they do not know, and then monthly we would meet with an expert on that specific topic and learn for the future experiences. The agents provide the training topics, which equals more engagement, and that works great. I think this is it's a really good example of kind of bringing those ideas that you mentioned earlier to life, Gary. And I think that's a really good tip from Vicky. Excellent, and we'll come to one final tip before I'll move on to Jason's presentation. And this comes in from Melissa, who says we have challenge chasers to get advisors to engage in the problem-solving process and recognize contributions quarterly. And I think that's also a very nice idea. I know a lot of people at the start of this webinar were kind of saying that problem-solving is the one key skill they want to improve. So I think that's a great piece of advice on that point. But for now, I think it's about time to pass over to you, Jason, and I'll let you give your presentation.
Sure, no problem at all. I do like the hot tips one. It's something I've used personally as well. In previous ones where there was like an internal message board where people said certain things, and then based on reporting you could see who was best at what, and then have them do a peer-to-peer training session so they feel that they're doing something great themselves because they're doing peer-to-peer. They're hearing from people who actually do the job, so they're kind of more receptive to the information they hear. So I definitely 100% agree with that hot topic stuff, because I've seen it and done it before. So I'm assuming my presentation is coming through okay. I'm not having any technology issues.
No, it looks great.
Awesome. That would be embarrassing from my side. So yeah, I'm Jason Griffin. I am a solution consultant at Five9. Just a small bit about me. Basically, I've done all roles within a contact center before coming this side of the fence, the dark side, you may call it. So I was an agent on the phone, selling plumbing and drainage insurance up to the septic tank for 3 months trial for £1. So yes, I've been there and done that. I've been a supervisor, a QA, a quality assurance manager, performance manager, and then I was an outbound dialer manager for Barclays Bank in Sunderland, and was down there for 8 years and kind of worked my way up to kind of leading their contact center strategy before coming this side of the fence. So what I've done today is kind of taken the information about that super agent and tried to take it in a way on my own personal experience and what I see in the industry that I'm in, where I consult for many different businesses on how we improve the way they work and way technology can really matter within that environment. And I've tried to correlate that down into kind of 3 major sections where technology will mainly come in. And that's obviously to the customer, where you are there wherever the customers want you to be. I think that's kind of a key thing. The agent themselves, they're super agents. We want to make them and evolve them to that. So treat your agents as humans, as not as a number. I think that's very key. But then the actual business has to be important here as well. And that's where the kind of empathy kind of comes in from the actual business. So even though we're talking about agent empathy, I think it's a full overarching thought process that the full business also have to have with that empathy side, and giving it all the way down so it kind of filters from top to bottom, that ethos, so it goes to your end customers. So if we do actually start with the customer, what I feel the kind of major thing is the actual information. Now, it might not be something that Stan Lee writes about in his comic books as being a great superhero, a superpower, but information is probably, for me, one of the single biggest superpowers that can possibly happen within a contact center, because information is so powerful that it can be used in a number of different ways to enable your contact center to improve. But if we look at it from the customer side initially, we live in a world just now where customers basically have a sense of entitlement that they want everything enacted instantly. Everyone expects everything to be done straight away. So, and that's where you may have seen it from other presentations and other webinars, that a big thing at this moment is about know me. Customers want you to know them instantly. So whether that's with they're calling in, chatting in, SMSing in, emailing in, web chatting in, whatever, you know who they are, and also you know what they want. And whether that's an update on our case, update on our product, something they want to purchase, change their appointment, and ideally they want to self-serve it. That's the ideal that everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to do it themselves. But if it needs to escalate to an agent, they do not want to come to an agent and start that process again. Working at Barclays Bank, one of the biggest complaints we get, and I used to complain about it as well, is that you dial an IVR, you put in your 16-digit card number in the IVR, and the first question the agent asks you, what is your 16-digit card number? That is infuriating and instantly put that interaction on the back foot. That your customer experience cannot improve from that initial backward step you've taken on that interaction. But if the information through the right technology is provided to that agent to tell them everything they need to know about this caller that's happened in the IVR, what or any other route they've come in, depending on the channel, what their intent is and coming in, and also all the other relevant information that comes with it, i.e. all the other screens. I used to have 5 or 6 different screens open at any one time, clicking between tabs and understanding what to say. It's confusing to everyone, but if they can deliver the right page in the CRM or in your knowledge base or intranet, internet page that comes with the intent the customer's coming in on, that makes the experience for the customer so much better than if the agent is having to put them on hold. Everyone hates hold music because all hold music sounds like elevator music, which no one ever likes. So you put them on less on hold, the interaction becomes better. And you know what? If the customer has a better interaction, so does your agent. If the agent is getting less people complaining to them, they'll enjoy it better. No one ever grows up to dream about being an agent. So what you want to do is try and make this as as best as possible for them. And the best way to do that is to provide them the right information to ensure that the customer coming through has the best interaction possible with your business. That is a full circle involvement from there, and how information is so important to this interaction, and why I've called that out as a superpower. What I've then done is kind of taken that kind of a step further and kind of made it its own superpower, but it still includes the first superpower, self-management. The information we've kind of talked about now is all about the interaction itself, information to the consumer or customer and to the agent, and how best to improve their interaction with the end customer or consumer. But information can also be used for self-management. And what we all want to know is why. Why are we doing things? Why are we doing that going forward? Why is the process set up the way it is? And the best way to do that is to provide the agent as much information as possible about themselves and about their peers. Now, this gives you an idea of the kind of buzzword that Gary mentioned his, and we all use it in the industry, in the gamification. So everyone wants to build their own avatar. I wish I looked at this avatar on here with the head of hair and how tanned he is. I'm Scottish, I don't get a tan. But this is what they want. They want that information in front of them. They want to know how they performed, what their current scores are. But even more important is, what is everyone else is sitting at? I'm very, very, very competitive. And I always, when I was on the phone, wanted to be number one. Now, that used to be I had to walk up to a whiteboard at one side of the room and put a tally in. That then wastes time after every single sale or success I had. Here, it's all automatic, provided to the agent front and center on their screen. They know where they are. They know where to improve, because they can see their average handling time, the amount of calls they've taken, their own performance, how everyone else is performing, and where to improve. And actually, in the end up, we actually can allow them in that gamification to challenge other people. So because you're challenging other people, you have these virtual coins. I am a massive gamer, but you have these virtual coins that you can be rewarded for. So I've seen quite a few of the tips coming in about rewarding for certain things. You can create those metrics in that self-management to say, if you achieve X, you will receive Y reward, which can be virtual coins that then can be used to actually, for a marketplace that you determine what's available. I think it will not be a surprise to anyone. The biggest thing people purchase is time off the phone, which I know that's what I would purchase, but that's the biggest thing. And the reason why this is important is because how I opened up this beginning part. You've treated them like humans. You're not treating them like school children where they're only in this box and they cannot leave this box. Don't look left, don't look right, look straight forward. No one likes that environment, and that's how they'll treat their customers. They will not think on their feet and feel like they can act on things themselves if you've got them in a box. What you want to do is give them the information so they can self-manage and evolve themselves. Yes, they'll need steering here and there, but if they feel comfortable enough that you're not breathing down their neck all the time, they will problem solve on their own because they're not in that box anymore. And that's where the self-management side comes in. They know where to improve, and they improve it from there. So that brings me, just before I go into my next superpower, is to a poll question. So Charlie, I'll let you push that out.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll just launch it for everybody now. So the question is, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important is customer service in building brand loyalty? And I'm going to put you on the spot here, Jason, and just ask you what you expect to come up here.
I'll be very surprised if someone picks 1 or 2. As Gary kind of mentioned in kind of his poll from earlier, that, what was it, 25% are happy to pay a higher amount of money for a better customer experience. So that kind of shouts for itself that it's definitely not 1 or 2 coming back. So we'll see what the split is between 3 and above. But I would say personally, it's very important for me and how I purchase things.
Excellent. And yeah, I'll share the results with everybody now. And as you're kind of, you're right in expecting it to be 4 or 5. I think we do have, as an audience that are in customer service, we probably have a slightly skewed audience here. As you can see, yeah, as you can see, 91% of people say very important, and just 9% say important.
No problem. Thank you. So that kind of leads me on to where I kind of feel the kind of circle of customer experience kind of comes into play, and where information and self-management can then be used to build loyalty. What do we all do before we do anything? We look at reviews. It's as simple as that. Before we go anywhere, we go on TripAdvisor. Before we purchase anything, we look at Amazon reviews, or whoever you're purchasing from reviews. And even if you go to Glassdoor, you can look at employee reviews. They are where we build ourselves on reviews, both on customer side and consumer, but also on the agent side as well. And that's where information and self-management come from. They are instantly improving customer experience because they have the right information, both for the customer, and the agent has the right information to self-manage, meaning that the experience that that customer has with your business as an entirety is so much better than where they were before. Your NPS and CSAT scores go through the roof. You'll be rated better, and also word of mouth. I don't know how many times you go, oh, what did you think of that? What did you think of this? To peers and friends. If they have good experience, then they'll stay there. If I pick even just internet providers in the UK, I am with my internet provider, who's also a telco provider in the UK, so you can probably work out who that is. And I left someone else because I asked for a review from a friend who worked from home and said, what is your broadband connection like all the time? I didn't really actually care about the price. I only cared about this actual experience I got. What is it like raising issues? What is it like getting it resolved? And how am I treated as a consumer? And I'm treated better now than I was before. And I found that out by a review. That's where that brand loyalty comes into play here and actually can be used. And as Gary mentioned, even in his part, attrition. The most expensive thing in a contact center is your agent. Simple. So if you have to go to recruitment consultants and get a new agent, hire them, train them for 6 months, and then they go, and then you have to start that process again, that's an extremely expensive process to actually go through. But if you're giving them the right information, which we've seen 60% of people in the industry don't feel they are, with the right technology, and then also allowing them by treating them by humans to self-manage themselves, that is only going to increase. We normally see that doubling in the term that an agent stays on average just by giving them the right information. And that saves a lot of money within a contact center, because you're not doing that circle of life of agents coming in, you're doing the circle of customer experience, which is where it's most important. So if I actually look at some of the power of the engagements in real time, and some of what the industry is actually saying about these things, that 84% of customers say being treated like a person is important to winning their business. And I know we're talking about treating agents like humans, but we also need to do that with customers. Treat them like they're someone coming in. And I say, if an agent's not boxed in, they will treat them like a new call. They won't get bored. They won't get angry. They'll actually have a human to human conversation. Voice is still number one in the industry, but it's on the wane. Typically, when people do elevate to an agent, it's not my last resort if they can't self-serve it themselves. But when they come through, they want to speak to a human and interact like a human. That's why that is such a high number, and something you need to concentrate on as much as possible. And that kind of leads on to the second one that kind of backs up the last one, which is consumers are likely to stay loyal if they have a good contact center customer experience, 74%. I think we can probably agree with that one. And then 82% of decision makers say the company's customer experience must transform to stay competitive. If you're not evolving your brand, look at the brands who have not evolved. And Blockbuster didn't evolve. Netflix, they actually had Netflix on their books, Blockbuster, and actually decided to not put any money in it because they didn't see Netflix actually kicking off. They then let Netflix go, and look at Netflix now. There's no Blockbuster. Kodak is nowhere near anymore. So these industries did not change their customer experience and move with the times and move with the technology with it. And that's why they're nowhere to be seen anymore, and why, again, that's such a high number. And then what just kind of more statistics is that we do see that year-on-year growth of customer retention has doubled. So ×2 on that, with repeat purchases and stuff like that, because people will come back to the nice interactions that they have within any business. You'll always remember the easy process you've always done before. Oh, that was easy to book. That was easy to purchase. Or that was easy to cancel and return. Actually, one of the greatest things about Amazon, I have to say, is actually returning. If you actually send them a message and say, I need to return this, they go, yeah, no problem. Here's a QR code, take it to your post office. We're already paid for the return, no problem. I done it yesterday. And that's because, and I now know that. So now I'm safe in the fact that if I purchase something, I don't like it within that 14 days, I can send it back. It's fine. I'll remember that going forward. And then 90% of people expect, and I mean expect, an immediate response. That we do not like waiting in this world. If you go back 15, 20 years when I was taking phone calls, I think it was 17 years now, on the phone, yes, there was a bit more delay. We went where we are now, but now people expect a response instantly. We do not like to wait. In my opinion, we all move too fast, but we just want everything instantly, and that's why that's super important. Now, being a bit of a geek and comic geek I am, the JLA actually stands for Justice League of America, if people did know that. But what I want to try and do is change that idea of the JLA being the Justice League of agents within your contact center. If they feel like they are a team acting together, then they will prosper your business, improve your business exponentially. And that's it.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for that, Jason. Lots of really great points there. I'll just put my slides quickly back on screen. And if you'd like to see a demonstration of any of the kind of technologies that Jason alluded to there, if you could just kind of let us know, I will quickly just launch a poll so everybody who can let us know now. But yeah, I thought there's lots of really interesting points there, Jason. I really liked kind of how you set it up, especially with kind of the customer agent and the business, because I think looking through every kind of people, process, or technology decision through that prism is such a great fundamental for kind of every contact center. I really like the example of the technology that you gave as well. Not only just kind of communicating when you had your self-management slide, what is expected of an agent, but also kind of showing them their performance improvement areas too that are individual to them, I thought was very clever. And your three superpowers, of course, of information, self-management, and loyalty there. I think through very different ones, but they were really thoughtful, and I think really interesting. So I'm going to just close that poll for everybody now, and quickly move on to our top tips and questions section. So I'm going to put the questions and tips from the chat room to our panel. And the quick question from Gary's last presentation from Natasha is, will you consider performance-based remuneration for super agents? Sorry, Gary, this one's for you.
Yeah, so I mean, reward and recognition schemes are ones that can be potential hot potatoes and quite contentious. I think linking performance to reward is a great idea. I just think it's probably one that you need to think about the unintended consequences sometimes of linking that to a reward scheme. I think Jason's point is great in terms of actually saying, how can you create virtual leagues through gamification? So getting great customer feedback might give you X amount of points, which might take you up the table. And that can be just as exciting as paying somebody to do something great. But I think you have to balance out the yin and the yang with remuneration schemes to see what the unintended consequences of implementing a linkage to that, because it can drive behaviors very differently.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's very important, especially when you're creating your reward and recognitions scheme. Just another tip now from Dawn, who says to focus on the health, emotional and mental and physical well-being of your staff, and they will take care of you. You can show your appreciation that you care by connecting with them on a personal level and focusing a bit on what they desire and need. I have run a business with this being a focus, and it's been a huge success. I don't. Do you think this is a particularly key point now, Jason, considering the kind of times that we're in?
100%, yes. So it's a very good one, Don. So what we've shown there is how technology can kind of allow the agent to self-manage within that platform, and what that really means is that the conversations that you're not having now are performance related, to say you have to improve here and you have to improve there. They already know that. So then that opens up more time to have that conversation on a personal level, rather than all the conversation always being about improvement and negativity and so on and so forth. So that's where that self-management comes in. Treat them like humans, allow them to understand where their own improvement needs to be. yes, point them in the right direction, but let them understand that themselves and take the extra time that you now have by not having those conversations to talk to them on a personal level, treat them like a human, treat them like a friend. And Don's completely right. What you'll get back is tenfold.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, especially as now we're all in remote working, as you said, Jason. Yeah, very important. So we have another question now from Peter, who says, "Is the name agents wrong for a super agent? It feels so transactional and dated." Oh, I don't know if both of you have opinions on this one, but I'll start with you, Gary, on this.
And so, I mean, we have to call them something. I mean, you've heard SDRs, you've heard reps, you've heard agents. Ultimately, it's their colleagues. So I think, how do we create super colleagues or super motivated colleagues that work with us? So yes, I agree. I think sometimes we're traditionalists and we go into that agent mode or rep mode. So we had to call the webinar something, super agent. Like it kind of hits that. I don't know what you think, please.
Yeah, I've heard lots of different names. I've even heard a ninja before, but I don't know if you have any preference, Jason, on agent names.
No, I've heard advisor as well, rather than agent. Advisor is another popular one, but yeah, everyone calls their staff something different, depending on it. Contact center, probably the most common is agent, but you're right. They could be called anything really. Ninja, that's quite a good one. But as long as you're kind of taking the kind of methodology we're mentioning, treat them like they want to be treated and the way you would like to be treated as well, then I'm sure they won't mind what you call them, as long as it's not derogatory, of course. But yeah, as long as you're calling them something, and as Gary and Charlie said, we had to call it something, so we called it super agent. And but yes, I do agree with the agent thing because of the way the world's going. Advisor seems to be quite more common as well.
I wonder what the response would have been if we put super ninja. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting question. I think it's one that a lot of contact centers are asking themselves at the moment. Another tip now, and lots of really great tips and questions coming in, I must say, from Lewis, who says, we have an ideas hub that allows our reps to put through new ideas around processes and engagement that the team filter out the ideas to SMEs, subject matter experts. I think that stands for. In addition, we have customer experts, our reps, that come up with solutions to put ideas forward. I think that's a very interesting one. I don't know if either of you have any particular thoughts on this.
No, I think these are great. I love having like employee reps or employee advocates for processes, because I think it's the more information we can get from our customers that are fed through the eyes and the lens of the people that are dealing with those customers, which are the colleagues, then the more valuable and intelligent that information can be, and can help us make some real significant change. So I totally 100% completely agree with that. Well done, Lewis.
Excellent. Yeah, I think those roles are always kind of great as well, setting up those SME roles, just because in contact centers we have such flat structures with the agents and leaders and team managers. So giving advisors this kind of the feeling that they are making career progress in the call center is quite hard to achieve. And I think that's a really good idea. So yeah, a final question. I think we might have to change this one a little bit, but has anyone used gamification in the contact center, and what benefits have been realized? And that's a question from Parham. I don't know if Jason, you have any kind of knowledge on which contact centers are using gamification and how that's been
Yeah, so I've rolled that out quite a few times at my side, and I had it personally as well. So it all changes depending on whatever contact center it actually goes into. But if I look at the actual attrition, we've seen a 2-time term. So if people were leaving every 6 months as an average, people were then leaving a year as an average. That average kind of went up as we went across, because they felt more empowered within the business. But it's like you're always going to see a certain percentage minimal to increase within a business. So you probably see like a 10% increase and above, and 10% is probably your lowest percentage. But it changes from business to business. But we definitely have seen a lot of success. I haven't seen any. I've seen the return on investment, let's put it that way, the ROI that comes with it, where it helps outweigh the cost of it within a period, within that first year normally. But yes. Parham, if you need to discuss that, I'm more than happy to go into further detail direct. Or
yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I think gamification is a really interesting area. I'm hearing lots more and more about it in contact centers. So I think it's a real up and comer, and it's interesting to your response to that, Jason. Just one final tip now before we close today's webinar, and that is from Thandeka, who says incorporating role plays in call center training helps boost agents' confidence. And I think it's a really kind of nice one to finish out this section on. I think role plays are always a really good idea.
If I add something to that, what I would completely recommend is the mystery shopper. That is a massive thing that you can do within your business, and that's kind of what Gary was saying as well. Is walk in the shoes of your customer, doing that mystery shopper, and allowing even your supervisors as leaders to understand it, and also your agents to maybe do a mystery shopper or listen to a mystery shopper coming in. It's a fantastic way to understand and walk in the shoes of your customer, to see what they go through, what information they get, and how they get from A to B within your call flow or within your interaction flow. You may think it's perfect, but it's always good to walk it just to make doubly sure and see what avenues it could go down if you are listening to a mystery shopper within your business.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I remember being at Gusto's contact center last year, and they had that process included in their induction training as well, so they could really get a sense of what it feels like to be the customer before they even start answering the phone. So yeah, I think that's another really great point. But I'm afraid, everyone, that's all we have time for today. If you could just put in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about the webinar? That would be really great in the chat room. We'd really appreciate all your feedback. But we do have time for the winning tip, which the winner will get a bottle of champagne or a box of chocolates. And that goes to Mark today, who says, create a buddy system. Pair new hire with super agent as your buddy system. Mentoring, guidance, encouragement, training, socialization within the team and company. And I think, yeah, it's always nice to, again, kind of creating that kind of secondary role where senior advisors can feel like they're taking on more responsibility. So I really like that idea as well. One of many really great ideas today. So yeah, also, if you could, when you leave the webinar, if you could please fill in our post-webinar survey. It's only 4 questions long, but it would, as we like to really much to have your feedback on how we can kind of continue improving. And I did notice a comment in the chat room earlier where somebody wondering where they could find the replay and slides, and that'll be available later this afternoon if you just follow the link www.callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars. Excellent. And so next webinars in the series also, if you would like to register for any of our next webinars, you can do that by visiting www.callcenterhelper.com/webinars. Lots of links for you to remember there, but I have faith. But now just time for me to thank our 2 speakers today. Thank you for joining us today, Gary.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you. And it's a pleasure to have you here also, Jason.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you everyone for listening.
Excellent stuff. And yeah, we'll be back next week, but that's all for now. Thanks and goodbye.
See you, everyone.